What's up, guys? Back with another video. Today I want to talk about something in language learning that also applies to other subjects. Again, I'm going to fly off the dome. So one thing that people do when they're learning something. Okay, let me preface this by saying when you first start a skill, you have nothing to go on, right? So I think it's best when you first start something to like watch some tutorial videos, watch some basic beginner guides, whatever you want to do, whether it's a video game, a new sport, learning a language, whatever, learn the basic grammar, because you need something to start building on top of, right? But then I think people fall into the trap of after they've got their like basic foundation down, which may take a little while for like language learning, may take a couple weeks, a couple months, whatever. But once they've got that down and they don't, okay, here's the thing. This is how I'm going to explain it with language learning. People will spend lots and lots of time studying grammar, using textbooks. Okay, if I study this grammar, then when I listen to Japanese or whatever language you're learning, then I'm going to hear this grammar and I'm going to understand it. I'm going to be able to use this grammar. But the problem is when you study grammar in like a textbook context, your brain does not like associate it with a real life language context, right? It's like, here's your textbook grammar that you're learning, and then here's what you actually hear in real life, right? And while they may be the same, it's like the association is so much stronger when you hear something in real life or in a real like native speaking context, right? So instead of trying to learn the grammar before you listen to the conversation, I would argue that you should listen to the conversation first and then learn the grammar. Because once you've listened to the conversation over and over, eventually you're going to keep hearing the same things over and over, and eventually your mind's going to be like, what is that? What does that mean? Now you have like a context for that piece of grammar, but in an actual conversation, like in an actual setting. So now when you go to learn that grammar, you're basically going to learn it in one shot, right? Whereas before, if you're learning it in a textbook, you're probably going to forget it over and over, keep learning it in a textbook. You're not going to hear it in the conversation. And I just think it's backwards the way that people go about learning grammar. For example, for me in Japanese, like I did learn like a bunch of grammar at the start, right? Just so I could at least understand very basic Japanese. But after that, I completely stopped like learning grammar. What I would do is if I saw something when I was reading or I heard something over and over, then I would look it up because I already had the context. I'm like, what does this mean? I've seen it many times in a native situation. And now when I learn what it means, I've got like a very strong connection to that grammar in my head. And from that point forward, I basically would understand it every time. And like some things you just, like for example, sometimes people are going for grammar that's way out of their reach too. Like it takes time. Like grammar kind of like builds on top of each other, right? Because you start to string longer, more complex thoughts together. So if you try to learn these like long, complex grammar patterns and then listen to them in a conversation, you're not going to understand. But if you're exposed to these grammar patterns over and over and over again in an actual conversation, eventually you're just going to like naturally start to understand what they mean, because like the context of the sentence and like the flow of the conversation, when they say something, you're gonna be like, oh, it means this. And then like you've naturally acquired that grammar just like a native would. So please stop studying grammar so much and trying to use it in a conversation, and please start having more conversation, listening to more Japanese or whatever language you're learning, and then go back and learn the grammar after. If there's something that was like interesting or you kept noticing over and over, then go back and learn the grammar. And I'd argue it's the same for other things too. Like for example, in like jujitsu, if you keep getting in a position over and over and you keep getting like swept in this position, or you don't know what to do from a position, instead of trying to learn like so much jujitsu from the start, like what you should do is when you notice that you don't have enough information, or you notice that something keeps happening over and over and you don't want it to happen anymore, that's when you have enough context to go and actually use like active learning to like improve that situation, right? But if you just try to use like active learning the whole time, where you're like, okay, if I'm in this situation, this is what I do, but the chance that you're actually in that situation is so low, like when you actually go to roll. So what you should do is you should go to roll and then see what situations are coming up over and over, and then learn about those. Same with language learning. Go and listen to an actual conversation, see which pieces of grammar you notice over and over and over again that you don't know what it means, and then look that up. Works with other things too, like in video games, for example. If you're like let's use League of Legends. You just went back to base and you don't know whether you should run to mid lane, to bot lane, or to top lane, right? You don't know based on like your team's positioning and stuff what to do. Well, if you had just watched a video that told you like everything what to do before you played the game, then even when you get in that situation, you're probably not even going to remember what's happening. But if you get into that situation over and over and you don't know what to do, and then you go back and learn, then you have like the context for what kind of situations this occur in and why you're going where you're going, etc. So anyways, guys, yeah, we're learning everything backwards. So like, let's switch the way we're learning things. And I think your results will really show for it. Anyways, guys, see you next time.